November started off dramatically, and it ended the same way. On November 2nd, Vatican police arrested and interrogated a senior Vatican official and a laywoman who worked with the Vatican. Days later, a Vatican trial began with 5 people accused of 2 different charges. They were a Spanish priest, Lucio Angel Vallejo Balda, and an Italian laywoman and PR expert, Francesca Ciauqui. They were accused of, quote, criminal conspiracy to disseminate news and documents related to the fundamental interests of the Holy See and the Vatican City State. Also charged were the journalists Gianluigi Nuzzi and Emilio Fittipaldi. They faced charges of, quote, illegally procuring and later revealing news and documents related to the fundamental interests of the Holy See and the Vatican City State. The case is centered around leaked documents which provided the basis for 2 books about the Vatican's finances. The penalty for the offenses can be up to 8 years in prison. What remained a mystery is exactly why the Vatican employees leaked information, and whether the 2 journalists would be convicted for publishing it. The drama on his home front didn't stop Pope Francis from undertaking one of the riskiest foreign trips of his pontificate. He began his 3-country tour of Africa and Kenya on November 25th. The Pope's first stop was at the State House in Kenya, where he received an enthusiastic welcome.
Experience shows that violence, conflict, and terrorism feed on fear, mistrust, and despair born of poverty and frustration.
Pope Francis again thanked them for the warm welcome. He said God bless Kenya in Swahili, and the crowd went wild.
Mungu abariki Kenya.
While celebrating Mass at the University of Nairobi, Pope Francis offered a challenge to the hundreds of thousands of people there. It was aimed particularly at students.
Di formare una società che sia sempre più giusta, inclusiva e rispettosa della dignità umana. Vi stiano sempre a cuore le necessità dei poveri. Rigettate tutto ciò che conduce al pregiudizio e alla discriminazione, perché queste cose, lo sappiamo, non sono di Dio.
In his speech at the seat of the United Nations in Kenya, Pope Francis thanked the organizations for their work to protect nature. Speaking in Spanish, he offered a dire warning about the upcoming COP21 conference in Paris.
It would be sad, and I dare say even catastrophic, were particular interests to prevail over the common good and leads to the manipulation of information in order to protect their own plans and projects.
The Pope's first major public appearance in Uganda took place here, at the Muyonyo Sanctuary, where the memory of the first 4 Ugandan martyrs is honored.
Siamo oggi qui in Muyonyo, nel luogo dove il re Mwanga decise di eliminare i seguaci di Cristo. Egli non riuscì in questo intento, così come il re Erode non riuscì ad uccidere Gesù. La luce rifulse nelle tenebre e le tenebre non hanno prevalso.
The Pope later listened closely to emotional testimonies from 2 young Ugandans. One suffers from AIDS, and the other was kidnapped and tortured.
Que la vida para ella era una pared delante.
That life was like a wall, a brick wall in front of her.
Pero Jesús le fue haciendo entender
Jesus made her understand
que en la vida se puede hacer un gran milagro,
that in life great miracles can be performed.
transformar una pared en horizonte.
A wall can be transformed into a path towards the future.
The Pope left the former airport in the same way when he arrived, with music and dancing all around him. It was a recurring theme during the trip. It was unclear until nearly the last minute whether Pope Francis would be able to visit the Central African Republic. Ultimately, he did. While in the country, he visited a refugee camp. The Pope entered by foot and began by first greeting the sick and the youngest refugees. Afterward, Pope Francis made improvised remarks and asked them to repeat a message in the future.
Pace senza amore, senza amicizia, senza tolleranza, senza perdono.
Siriri, tungana yengo tere kiape, lungula ngo tene na lichimba timo kiape.
Non è possibile.
Aling bichite na siape.
Mi piacerebbe che tutti diciamo insieme, tutti siamo fratelli.
Aike nzagani na ni mingi chite ne ikwe itelelege oko ikwe ike aita. Ala lingu chite na teitonso ikwe ike aita. Ala tiga tene encore. Encore.
On his last day in the CAR, the Pope opened the Holy Door in the Cathedral of Bangui. He said that, quote, Bangui is the spiritual capital of the prayer for God's mercy. In a country where war has divided religions, Pope Francis attempted to bridge the divide between Christians and Muslims. He visited a mosque and was warmly received. The Pope received flowers as a gift from some young girls before entering the central mosque. He was accompanied by the mosque's grand imam. After some remarks from the imam in French, the Pope delivered a strong interreligious message in Italian.
Insieme diciamo no all'odio, no alla vendetta, no alla violenza.
And just as when he came in, Pope Francis took the Pope-mobile out. The imam rode with him as a stampede of excited people ran alongside the truck.